Good afternoon. I'm Michael Kessler, Associate Director of the Berkley Center, faculty member in the Government Department and the Law School. Today's program is on homosexuality in comparison, particularly in China, but with some thoughts about comparatively across the United States and China. This program is part of the Berkley Center's program on religion in China and the United States, which seeks to promote dialogue, improve understanding, and inform better policy on key issues in U.S.-China relations, including religious freedom and the changing role of religion in world affairs. 3 interrelated projects are part of the Religion in China program. The first is high-level dialogue, which we've had at various points over the last couple of years with between Georgetown scholars and others from the United States, and members of the diplomatic community in China, particularly related to the State Agency for Religious Affairs. The second is a bilingual website set of resources about religion, both in the United States and in China, and about religion in general, which is translated into Chinese and is available in China as a teaching resource. And then the third part of the project is annually hosting a year-long visit by a rising post-doctoral scholar. I believe this is our 5th year now that we've had a postdoc from China, and the Walton Family Foundation has endowed this project of bringing a postdoctoral fellow. The center holds an annual competition for a very promising Chinese scholar of religion. This year's postdoc is Ping Huang, a postdoctoral fellow with us for the year at the Berkley Center. She is an assistant professor in the School of International and Public Affairs at Shanghai Jiao Tong University. Dr. Huang's research and publications mainly excuse the pronunciation. You will have to correct every one of them. And then we do some of the English. Dr. Huang's research and publications mainly focus on transnational religious NGOs, religion and diplomacy, as well as issues of religion, media, and globalization. An extract of her doctoral dissertation, Reformulating Buddhism and Making a Global Social Movement, there's a colon, colons are very important in dissertations, a sociological study of the Tzu Chi Foundation in Taiwan and Hong Kong. And that dissertation won the 12th Annual National Challenge Cup Contest 3rd prize in 2011. Her research program concerning religion and American public diplomacy recently won support from the Shanghai Municipal Education Commission as a key innovation program. Dr. Huang received her PhD in the sociology of religion from Hong Kong Baptist University. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Huang, who will give a presentation of her paper with some PowerPoint slides to accompany, and then we'll have some time for conversation among the whole group. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Whoa. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank the Berkley Center to give me this opportunity to present my ideas here and communicate with all of you. And I also want to thank Michael to give such a good introduction for me. Second, I would like to thank all of you in this conference room, because I think you are very brave. For me, even I'm a speaker, I have no confidence about this presentation will be very interesting. So I will try my best to keep you awake. Okay. Third, I would like to thank Dr. Chen, who is not here, but we co-authored this paper. This is actually a working paper for a book. So that will be published this year, at the end of this year. So please don't be mercy for me. All criticisms and comments and suggestions are welcomed. That will help me do the revision. Okay, so today's topic is about homosexuality in China, emergent social and religious controversy. I will mainly focus on this. You can see this is a very broad topic, but today I will mainly focus on the most influential and biggest discussion concerning homosexuality issue discussion in China in the year of 2011. So I don't know how many of you know the news back in 2011. In June, Lady Gaga posted tweet about his feelings about the discrimination about homosexuality issue. I remember he tweeted I feel the denial of gay marriage sends a prejudiced message. Our youth deserve a fair and hopeful future with government that values us equally. So, in the same month in China, there also another very famous celebrity. I mean, of course, Chinese celebrity. She used the Chinese tweet, we call it Weibo, to post an anti-homosexual comment about the same-sex marriage issue. So this her comments triggered the largest and also as I said, most influential discussion about the homosexuality issue in China. So today's presentation will mainly focus on this. If there's enough time, I also want to share some empirical materials about how Christian gays or Christian homosexual community, how they try to promote or advocate homosexual rights in China, what they are doing, what are their voices or their identity, and also some of their difficulties with you. But mainly because this presentation is based on a sociological paper, so that's some materials I also want to present. Okay, here is the structure of today's presentation. The first part, I will describe the whole LOLIPING incident. LOLIPING is the celebrity I mentioned, so who is post anti-homosexual comments. The second part is about some historical, cultural, legal or policy background of homosexuality issue in China. I think this part is very important because that will help us to understand why this issue is maybe different from Western countries like the US. So you will see a different picture. The third part is, like I said, it's about some gay and lesbian Christian fellowships in contemporary China. I hope I can present some of their experiences. The first part will be some concluding remarks. Okay, here comes the first part, the case of LOLIPING. Let me introduce the LOLIPING first. LOLIPING is a very famous actress in mainland China. So this picture is his husband she and her husband. So LOLIPING and her husband Sun Haiying, they're also very famous celebrities in China. They are well-known confessed evangelicals, but they are also well-known for their homophobic comments on homosexuality. In 2007, Ri's husband, he declared homosexuality to be a sin against humanity, comparing it to one-night stands, keep of mistresses, wife swapping and swinging. So a sociologist, Li Yinghe, openly criticized Sun Haiying as ignorant, brutal, and uncultivated. So that's kind of have very great impact in China. Also aroused many discussions in China. But today we will focus on LOLIPING, not her husband. Okay. So the case of LOLIPING, actually in China, the Christian community or the whole Chinese people, we do not face the problem of legitimizing of same-sex marriage issue, but still this incident was triggered by this issue. So it started by a Chinese pastor Feng Wei, who is the Victory Baptist Chinese Mission of Rochester in New York. So he posted a piece of Weibo in June 2011. So in his Weibo, he said, so you can say I don't want to repeat again. So that's a very long paragraph. But I want you to focus on its Weibo, because back that time, I think maybe only a few people know Pastor Feng Wei. I mean, he's not famous he was not famous in China. But after he posted his Weibo, LOLIPING immediately reposted and added some comments. Reposted Pastor Feng's statement and added an urgent comment. So here is the comment is actually very short. Brothers and sisters, forward this wisdom to more people. In 2011, LOLIPING has, oh sorry, I think I missed a number. It's actually 125 million followers. No, sorry. Let's say 1 million, more than 1 million followers at that time. So because LOLIPING has such so many followers and has such a great influence in China, so her Weibo triggered many responses and discussions immediately. Also, maybe because that's not the only Weibo she posted. That's also that's just one of her serial Weibo about anti-homosexual issues in one day or maybe in 1 week. So in all the pieces of Weibo, LOLIPING described homosexuality as a crime loathed by God. So then in response to LOLIPING's Weibo or her comments, many criticism or opposition were triggered from many sides of people in China. So sorry for my poor English, I use this picture to present the backlash against LOLIPING. I think all the oppositions comes from these parts, like celebrity outrage, public anger, and boycotts from homosexual community, mass media criticism, also opposition from the central government, I can give you some figures. In response to this incident, more than 60 celebrities, including movie stars, famous singers, writers, and public intellectuals, posted on Weibo or accepted interviews to express their opposition to LOLIPING's comments. Also, because LOLIPING and her husband are actors, so the homosexual communities in China, they reacted very quickly and called for a boycott of Ri and her husband's movies. For example, the boycott was led by the Guangzhou-based Parents, Family, Friends of Lesbians and Gays. That's called the PFLAG China, and also an organization named Shanghai Pride. And also many media organizations responded to this incident quickly. Here is an example from the national TV station, CCTV Channel 13. But before I describe this example, I want to point out 3 facts in the opposition from the mass media. Okay, first of all, among all the big media organizations which responded to LOLIPING's comments, most of them were strongly opposed to LOLIPING's comments, and only a few focused on the facts reported. But still, they showed their tendencies toward this opposition. Only one media organization defended that LOLIPING by reinterpreting her words as if from a religious angle and emphasizing LOLIPING's right to expressing her own opinions. However, this only media organization who defended LOLIPING also emphasized in its conclusion of its column that LOLIPING's remarks were very, very wrong. The second fact I want to point out is all the media organization, they keep a highly consistent regarding this issue. For example, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a very famous newspaper in China that is called the Southern Weekly. So that newspaper actually triggered let's say that. So this newspaper, which is very famous for criticizing government, and but regarding this issue, it maintained a highly consistent stance with the Chinese state media. So it published an article written by a Taiwanese author who named Yang Jiao on July 13, 2011. In this article, the author criticized the LOLIPING by quoting teachings from the Bible and interpreting traditions of Confucianism and Christianity, said we should be more tolerant to homosexual communities. The last fact I want to share with you is it's very interesting. Among all the media organizations who reported or discussed the LOLIPING incident, they all avoid mentioning her Christian identity, and also the words involving Christianity in her remarks. So that's we may conclude that Christianity is even more sensitive subject in China than homosexuality is. So that's very interesting. Now I try to move to the example of CCTV channel 13. So this is the host, Qiu Qimin. The program called 24 Hours. In this program criticized the LOLIPING's homophobia comments. It stated that people should be more tolerant about different groups with different identities, and celebrities should be aware of the impact of their public speech on society. So you can see there is a banner under the screen. So actually, the banner here says, please respect each community's choice, each group's choice. So that's the meaning of these Chinese words. Okay, the host Qiu Qimin, here is the, I only put one paragraph here. So you can, I may give you another paragraph of Qiu Qimin's statements. You can see this paragraph here. So continue the, he keeps saying that there is no doubt that the sexual orientation of certain people in our midst is different from the rest of us, but they are also diligently contributing to society. Gay people like us have the right to exist and develop themselves in society, and this right should not be overtaken by any other concept. So that's the comments continuing after this statement here. Why I put the examples of CCTV here is because the current Chinese policy toward homosexuality may be described as four no's. Like the government's attitude may be described as four no's. What four no's? No inquiry, no mentioning, no talking, no response. So the government is actually trying to keep silence in homosexuality issue. So we didn't find any direct response from the central government concerning LOLIPING incident. But considering CCTV and also other newspapers controlled by the government, we may safely say that the voice from CCTV also can be regarded as the central government's attitude. So now I think you may already have, have a sense of how this discussion goes. Is in one sentence is like it's rather than instead of argument, discussion, or a debate, we may say it's actually one-sided criticism. I mean, concerning the anti-homosexual comments. So I may use the word wrong, but you can see the picture of this incident. Now I want to introduce you. So you may already realize that this issue is actually different from what is happening in the US, in Western countries, for example, like the US. Because we usually see that the strongest opposition always may come from religious groups. But in China, white people, but I mean in U.S. even the strongest opposition come from religious groups, but there are some balancing views. Some other views will balance their opposition. But in China, the picture is different. I think you need if we want to understand the LOLIPIng incident we just mentioned, we need to have some background information about the homosexuality issue in China. So first, I will start with some historical and cultural background. Actually, in China, formal historical data provided by ancient records dealing with male homosexuality can be traced back to the Shang dynasty, that is 16th century to 11th century BC. Historical traces of male homosexuality persisted from dynasty to dynasty during ancient times and never disappeared. One interesting fact is lots of evidences have shown that male homosexuality was accepted at the very highest level of the society. So here is a picture. This picture is actually about a very famous homosexual love story in China. So the name of the story is called The Passion of the Cut Sleeve, 断袖. I don't know how many of, but I mean, 断袖 is actually a word describing homosexuality in China. Like if we say in Chinese, if we say somebody as 断袖, that also means you are gay. It's like gay. So this story is about Emperor ID, who is an emperor of Chinese Han dynasty. So he had a lover named Dong Xian. In one afternoon, they were falling asleep on the same bed. So Emperor he cut off his sleeve rather than disturbing sleeping Dong Xian when he had to get out of bed. That is very unusual if you considering the status of emperor. So no one can cut his sleeves. So people regard this as his sacrifice for his gay lover. So after that, this episode love between after that, the episode between men was often referred to the passion of the cut sleeve. So that's kind of Chinese tradition. There are many stories. Another story is about separate peach, 分桃, also happening between an emperor and his lover. So that's all very famous homosexual love stories in Chinese history. Then I want to introduce you some religious background in China, of course concerning homosexuality issue. So I listed two Chinese religions. One is Confucianism, the other is Taoism. So according to Confucianism, even it emphasized the value of family, but it does not include homosexuality in its list of prohibited practices. Why is that? Because according to Confucians, as long as the fulfillment of one's family and social obligations, the homosexual behaviors can be allowed it. So, yeah, that's attitude of Confucius. For Taoism, for the Taoist tradition, homosexual intercourse was seen as neutral because the act has no detrimental or benefit effect on a person's life's essence. That's kind of very that will related to some key concept of Taoism, like yin yang or the essence of life. But we can say that we may just simply say that because Taoism, they advocate a natural, spontaneous lifestyle, contrasting starkly with the rigid, formalized patterns of Confucianism. So they have more liberated attitude among Taoists. There are more liberated attitude among Taoists toward human sexual behavior. So these Chinese religions, they actually do not show strong opposition of homosexuality, according to the history. There are evidence showed that strong opposition of homosexuality becomes fully established until the late Qing dynasty and the Republic of China, which influenced by Western culture and religious traditions. So, of course, maybe some of you may question that is Confucianism really accept homosexuality? In fact, some scholars argue that because the influence of Confucianism in China, so that make Chinese people, they really concerned of the viewpoints from others, especially from their family members. So when the whole society stigmatizes the homosexual behaviors, that will make Chinese gays or lesbians feel more reluctant to come out than Western homo gays or lesbians. But I think that's opinion is not contradicted with my conclusion or my observation. I think religious and cultural differences in because China has no strong institutionalized religious or cultural traditions against the homosexuality, there is actually more room for China to allow a gradual evolution of thoughts. The third part I want to introduce is the policy background. So after the communists came to the power, the opposition became homophobia, and it took over in China. And especially under Mao Zedong's rule, the homosexuality was defined as non-existent. Especially that's the most harsh time in the for homosexuality in the Chinese history. So, but the policy already changes in recent years. You can see that in 1997, the Chinese government abolished the hooligan law, an act considered by most to be decriminalization of homosexuality, because there is the Chinese government, I mean especially Mao's time, the homosexuality was defined as non-existent. So people were not arrested for homosexual behaviors, but they were arrested or accused of hooligan behavior. So that's when this law was abolished. That actually make the homosexuality no longer illegal in China. So also in 2001, the Chinese Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from its list. China ceased to define homosexuality as a mental disorder. These two changes are very important to homosexuality in China today. Because, as I said, there's no institutional religious or cultural opposition, toward homosexuality in China. So people become homophobia not only or maybe mostly influenced by the propaganda from the government or the government policy. So after the government abolishes this sort of policy or laws, there are many gay bars or social clubs have sprung up in major cities in China, along with a lively subculture. That's maybe also different from Western countries. When the number of evangelical or Christians increased in China, their connections with international communities have become stronger and more powerful. So despite continuing government censorship and the reluctance to discuss sexual matters in public, homosexual topics are becoming less sensitive and more openly discussed because of the religious communities' promotion. There are actually many interactions between Christianity and homosexuality issue in China. Mostly, I think the influence of Christianity on homosexuality are positive. I will discuss that later in my conclusion remarks, but that's my main point. But I will discuss that later. So we already see there are very conservative or evangelical Christians. They opposed homosexuality very much, like LOLIPING. But there are also many Christians. They organized fellowships or activities to promote gay rights in China. That's that's kind of new in China. How many minutes do I have? Okay. So in my working paper, we actually have 3 examples in 3 places in China. One is in Xiamen. So this is a coastal area in China. It's very near Taiwan. Another is Chengdu. Chengdu is interland city in China, in Sichuan province. You may be familiar with the earthquake. So that's the capital city of Sichuan province. And another example is Kunming. Kunming is also another interland city. So I may only introduce the one example in Xiamen. I actually have many interview materials or activity pictures of them, but because the sensitivity of this group, so they want us to do not. They want to be. It's better. I asked their permission to if I can present some of their pictures or here, but they said it's better not. So, but I can show you some video. They already put that online, so I can show you some video of their activities. This Xiamen Fellowship is very interesting. It has a very deep connection with a Hong Kong institution. It has very broad and deep connections with overseas organizations. So that's kind of also, I think, is make the whole Chinese picture interesting, because LOLIPING criticized the same-sex marriage because he got a message from a pastor from New York. But this organization, they can also get support from overseas organizations. The founder, also the organizer, let's call him Jay. So Jay is, he did, like me, he pursued his master degree or PhD degree in a Hong Kong university, not Hong Kong University. So he did his internship in a Christian institution in Hong Kong. So he followed their steps to try to promote homosexual rights in China. Jay created, I may just read some paragraphs. So Jay created a Qun, which is a communication group on QQ. I don't know whether any of you know QQ. QQ is like MSN or Skype in China, but it's the largest and influential social media in China. So Jay created a QQ on a Qun on QQ with and a chatting site with the this communication group is called Cao Tong Ku. That means super. Let me translate it literally. That's super homosexuality cool. Kind of that mean. So it has members now is more than 300, including both homosexual members and non-homosexual members from mainland China, Canada, Europe, and other places. It's very interesting that when we did our interviews, some of their members, overseas members, they said they didn't realize that there are so many Christian gays in China, because they don't know, like China is so, they don't know China has gays at all, or not even, not mentioning Christian gays. So they're quite surprised when they know there is such an organization exists. We can see that because another interesting fact is this organization, they use, because as I said, the Christianity and homosexuality, they are like taboo issues in China. So this organization, thank for the internet. They actually use a lot of internet tools to organize, mobilize, and people. So they use social media like Weibo, we just said, Weibo, and also blogs, and also Douban to attract people or recruit people. They also have, let me see, they also have many activities beyond the internet. Like they provide, it aims at providing knowledge on conflict between homosexual tendency and Christian tendency, acceptance of identities, histories, and ministries of homosexual churches, and the relationship between homosexuals and Chinese churches. It also shares ministries' experiences and difficulties faced by people and organizations. It organizes different activities, including lectures, retreats, workshops, movie watching events, photo image shows, and performance art activities. So, for example, they, of course, they expand very quickly, but they still face lots of difficulties. I think the biggest difficulty or pressure is comes from the double identity as Christianity and homosexuality. So, or because the sensitivity of these two issues. So their activities are usually blocked by local authorities because of this double identity. For example, they tried to host a lecture by a homosexual pastor named Ouyang Wenfeng. Can I see his name? Yeah. So they tried to host the lecture in a university campus, but in the only one day before the event, they were noticed that because of the sensitivity, the activity was banned, and they should cancel this activity. So these sort of things happened a lot. I think that's a very big difficulty they are facing. But also the organizer told me that even they use the internet as communication tools to communicate with people and recruit people, they also facing this sort of censorship concerning the sensitivity of the two issues. But the tricky thing is some, or maybe not most, but the censorship system or software cannot recognize English. So it's interesting because if they use Christianity or homosexuality in Chinese, if they put these words in Chinese, they are their posters or their chatting rooms will be blocked. But they type these words in English, so that will be fine. I think this is really interesting, and also, I don't know, it's kind of sounds silly. Another one pressure in the U.S. Christian gays, if they face a problem or face the pressure come from the churches. But I think in China, they also face this sort of problem. But during the interview with them, they also mentioned that the pressure is not so big. It's not at least as big as great as in the U.S. or other Christian countries, because as I quote, Jay said, the opposition from the church, oppositions from the church are not radical because of the strict regulations on Christianity imposed by the government. Christians who oppose homosexuality have limited space to express their opinions publicly, and therefore there's no uniform standpoints and expressions from the churches. So that's why I said that may actually create room or chance for homosexual rights in China. There are actually many interview materials. I would not read all of them. So let's jump to some of my concluding remarks. First of all, I think in the globalization era, communication among Christians around the world has had a great impact on religious engagement in public forums in China, and also has a positive influence in promoting homosexual rights in China. Even, as we said, even LOLIPING's Weibo posts are against homosexuality, they still arouse rare discussion on issues of homosexuality in the society and among the public. I think even their views are against or anti-homosexuality, but the influence are positive. Also, the fellowships in Xiamen, Chengdu, and Yunnan have proved that overseas networks can provide support, resourceful, intellectual, can provide resourceful, intellectual, spiritual support for the public engagement of Christian groups in China. I think that's a very interesting fact we need to notice. Secondly, we still need to face the difficulties of religious publication in public forums. There are actually many policies, like the Central Committee of Chinese Communist Party issued document 19, which lay out its basic viewpoints and policy on the problems of religion under communism in China. The document states religion will not be permitted to meddle in the administrative or administrative affairs of the states or intervene in the school or public education. Article 36 of Constitution also emphasizes that religion are not allowed to disrupt public order or impair the health of citizens. So it is evident that religion's influence on the public sphere, such as political life, the areas of economics, education, and science, and mass media, is strictly restricted or even prohibited by the Chinese government. So the criticism made by the national TV station CCTV, Channel 13, we just said as the example regarding LOLIPING's discourse, or many media discussions avoid LOLIPING's Christianity identity, only focus on his discriminating words, can be regarded as signals of the state's restraints on religion's public influence in China, and also the government's attempt to reduce religion as a private matter. So we still need to face this sort of difficulty of religion in China. So for this point, we think the expression concerning anti-homosexuality issue is very beneficial for the development of Chinese society. I'm not saying that their words are right or I don't know, or correct, but I think their participation or they arousing, they proposing this issue can trigger the public discussion in the society. I think that's beneficial. So also, third, the last point is homosexual Christians are especially under great pressure in China. So most, of course, on the one hand, their Christianity identity has some contradiction with their homosexual identity, but that's not the main pressure they faced. The biggest difficulty they faced is the sensitivity of being a Christian and being a homosexual. That's still from the pressure, we can say, from the Chinese government or official churches. And we, from our interview, we also see other difficulties, like they received many supports from overseas organizations or churches or institutions, but they still lack of resources, very lack of resources. So I think concerning these 3 points, there is a long road to walk if China have want to really have some sort of a progress or development concerning this issue. But luckily, as I said, because there's no institutional religious or cultural opposition toward homosexuality, we can expect that there may be more rooms for a gradual evolution of homosexual rights in China. So that's the end. Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Great. We have time for probably 2 questions if anybody has something to follow up on. Sure. Yes.
Hi. I just would like to know whether there is an open discussion about gay marriage in China on the part of the government, and if there is, would they be opposed or more in favor of it? And how then that would play out toward the official churches?
Okay. Should I answer it now or later? There's actually no open discussion about the gay marriage issue, or at least no big discussion about gay marriage issue, because I think it's simply because China hasn't reached at that level yet. I mean, China is still, the development is, homosexual rights is very at a low level. But some people, like the famous sociologist Li Yinghe, I mentioned in the previous slides, she also served as of the delegate of People's Community of China. So she actually tried to propose, like Chinese government should allow gay marriage, something like that. She had sort of proposition, but I don't think she get any response. And also that does not create a big discussion in society or in public. we actually interviewed some gay activists in China when we did our field work. Many of them said, okay, it's a little bit far. We need to fight for other rights first. Or they didn't think that's a very urgent issue. I think that's the main picture. Okay, thank you.
You mentioned that during the Maoist era, that was the most difficult time.
Yes.
What were the socialist sort of justifications or reasons for, anti-gay, I guess, policies? Because I guess it's not a religious thing, and it's not necessarily in like Marx's writings or anything. So I was wondering what those were. The other thing I was wondering was in the sociologist Yang Fenggang's work.
Yes.
He talks about Christianity in China being sort of a cool new Western thing, whereas here, Christianity, the anti sort of gay factor in the Christian sort of population or whatever is the more traditional one.
Yes.
So in China, if the sort of very fervent religious Protestants are actually expressing sort of a interest in like a new Western exotic thing, then it certainly seems very antithetical. But I just wondered how those two things go together.
I didn't understand the second question. What things go together? You mean as a traditional thoughts or a new thoughts in China?
So here, if somebody expresses like let's say a Protestant opinion about that's anti-gay, then it's thought of as a traditional thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in China, if being Protestant and being very, I guess, Christian is a new thing, or it's more Western, it comes from the outside, then it seems like it's not traditional. It's more exotic, I guess.
Yes.
So is it when like that actress LOLIPING was saying, oh, let's her very sort of homophobic comments, they were an expression of religious sort of fervency, right? But was that actually an expression of, oh, I'm holding on to some, or I'm going for something exotic and Western and new? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Okay, so let me start with the second question. I think that's what I tried to reveal is because this sort of comments or emotions are kind of exotic or new to Chinese. So, and also because the population of Christianity is not so big, or it's at least it's their opposition of homosexuality is not a dominant culture in China. So that's why the views of LOLIPING's anti-homosexuality comments are so one-sided. Like, or most of Chinese people, like from media, from the public, or from the homosexual community itself, they all criticize her comments. That's kind of because, on the one hand, is Chinese has high acceptance, historically, of homosexuality, but also it also means this sort of viewpoints does not have a deep root in Chinese society. So when a Christian jump up to criticize homosexuality, people will just feel, at least the mainstream voice was not happy. So I think that's because, like you said, it's exotic. It's new because we don't have that sort of, roots in China. We don't have that sort of tradition. like I think in US that would be common because there are, if someone like LOLIPING jump out to criticize homosexuality, there should be around some debates, right, between different sides or parts in the society. But for China, it's very strange. She criticized, then most of the response are criticize her back. So there are actually no balanced. There are few people or few communities defend the LOLIPING. So that's the strangest situation. And also concerning the first, the first question. Okay, sorry. First question is about, could you please remind me? Sorry. I tried to write down.
Oh yeah, just you said that the Maoist era.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Thank you. So, sorry, I had a bad memory. Short memory, I'll say. I think is kind of ideology thing because back that time, Mao tried to battle so-called Western culture or Western corruption. So he actually criticized like many things, even like homosexuality exists in Chinese history for a long time. He criticized that was imported from Western countries. So as ideology, ideology battle something. So all the bad things, or at least all the bad things in his viewpoint, are imported from Western countries. So I think that's the explanation. I don't know if I make myself clear or not. Okay.
No. Anyone else?
Okay. No?
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
I feel relieved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.